Hey everyone, welcome to Daily Revelations. Thanks for joining me and for coming along on this journey. So we are still in the Old Testament, in 1 Samuel. And we talked about yesterday how God used Samuel amidst all these really bad circumstances to raise him up to be the next leader of the Israelite nation during the times of the judges. And he basically transitioned them into the time of the kings, which we'll get into in weeks to come. But what happens in 1 Samuel 4 and 5, which I was in today, is not such a pretty picture. It kind of continues downward in a spiral, just as many people's lives do when they don't honor God and revere him for who he is. Instead, try to use him and for their own purposes, which doesn't work out really well. And we'll see that in this chapter. So I want to focus mostly on 1 Samuel 4. We perceive we have power when we are following God. You see this all over the place in Christian circles. People saying, if I just call out God's name and I, pray to him, I can be healed. I can get everything I want when I pray. But that's not how God works. God cannot be controlled. And the story in 1 Samuel 4 basically proves that. Because what happens is, I talked about these two priests, that Eli's sons, they were doing a lot of awful things within God's temple, and not temple at that time, it was still a tent, but not so good. Anyways, so they had become so full of themselves that their perception on what was real got lost. And when the Philistines started attacking them, they said, well, you know what? Let's just take those two priests and the Ark of God. This is what the Israelites said. And let's bring it into battle, because if we take God with us, he will defeat them. So they were basically using God as a good luck charm and saying, you know what? If we have him with us, we'll win. Well, guess what? They didn't. And they were defeated greatly. The two priests and Eli, their father, all died that day. And the Ark of the Covenant got taken into the enemy territory. It was not good at all. But too often do we see also, I've got plans. I pray to God. I pray that God is in these plans. And so therefore I have the power to do this. That's not how God works. God is the one who has the plans. God is the one who has the power. And I even wrote in my notes that we can't make God go with us. We can't capture him and say, okay, your power is now mine. Because that's basically what we're saying. We have to submit to God's plans. We have to get behind him. We have to follow him. Then his power goes before us. His power goes behind us. His power surrounds us because we are moving where he desires to move, where his power is going. Otherwise, we perceive we have power that we don't have. And God's power, as we're going to probably talk about tomorrow, and the ill effects that it had on those that didn't follow him and all of a sudden had this ark in their possession, got really scary. Because God will not allow us to use him. And he will make it very evident that he is not being used by people, that he uses people to bring him glory. I'm just finishing up a book right now. It's called Radical Together. We're doing it in our study for the consultants that I lead for SPED Homeschool, my organization. And the quote that I was going to share today goes so well with this reading. I just wanted to read it to you. It says, God doesn't need me. God doesn't need you. God doesn't need our conferences, our conventions, our plans, our programs, our budgets, buildings, or mission agencies. God does not involve us in his grand global purpose because he needs us. He involves us in his grand global purpose because he loves us. and you don't allow somebody who you love to go off and do things that are going to hurt themselves. That's why God protects us within his power. And yes, we can wield great power if we're walking with God and we keep that relationship first. But when we put ourselves and our plans before God and we try to use his power for those things, it will always turn out badly. We can be deceived because Satan, of course, wants to make us think we have power. And so he'll sometimes put his power in the place of where we think God is, and that will lead us further astray. But the main goal is to be focused on God. And during this whole time, I was thinking about this. Samuel, who I was talking about yesterday, it said at the very beginning of this chapter, it says, now, the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Samuel was gaining prominence, yet throughout all of this happenings and everything with the ark, he stays back and he serves God and he waits on God until God shows him what he's supposed to do. He's not running around crazy like all the other Israelites and the Philistines that got now into this picture. He's waiting, and we should wait too. We should wait on God until he reveals his plans to us, because that is where the power lies. And if we don't have his power, we go out ready for defeat of ourselves, not of the world. So be encouraged. Wait on God's power. When it comes, then you'll have everything you need, and it will be God's right timing. It's in his plan that you will have that. So thanks for joining me today on Daily Revelations, and I'll see you again tomorrow, everybody.